It's Wednesday, March 4th, 2026. The latest in Iran, a Texas-sized primary, and keeping a watchful eye on the propaganda. Next on the AM Update. U.S. Central Command provided an update on the first 72 hours of their operations in Operation Epic Fury. They say they've targeted command and control centers, the IRGC Joint Headquarters, the IRGC Aerospace Forces Headquarters, Integrated Air Defense Systems, ballistic missile sites, Iranian Navy ships, Iranian Navy submarines, anti-ship missile sites, and military communication capabilities. Those are just some of the highlights of the many hundreds of targets that have been hit by the United States, at the very least. Some estimates go up into the thousands when you count what Israel has hit, along with the United States. Speaking of those Israeli hits, the IDF struck the covert Menzadihai compound in which the Iranian regime operated to develop necessary capabilities for nuclear weapons. That was one piece of news that came out yesterday as well. As they hit yet again the Iran Assembly of Experts in Qom. That's just south of Tehran. They hit the building, at least, that they usually meet in. It was not clear whether or not any of those Assembly of Experts, the clerics basically, were meeting in person physically. But it is reported that the IDF struck this target while votes were being counted to elect a new Ayatollah. From what I've seen, nothing has been definitively said quite yet. Maybe the son of Ali Khamenei was elected as well, but again, I haven't seen that reported officially quite yet. Also, the UK getting involved. A British F-35 fighter jet achieved their first reported combat kill, if you want to call it that, shooting down an Iranian attack drone over Jordan. United Kingdom getting in on the action, trying to prove that they are not exactly worthless. There is one European country that has proven themselves worthless. More on that in a little bit. First, though, at the White House, President Trump welcomed German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, who he himself was actually very supportive of the United States' efforts in Iran. President Trump was asked about the ongoing narrative that the Jews roped us into another war. Here's what he had to say.
Pull the United States into this war.
No, I might have forced their hand. You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully.
So that question and answer stemmed from Marco Rubio, Secretary of State Marco Rubio's words that we played yesterday morning. Marco Rubio was asked again whether or not Israel was the one who roped us into this war.
We go in because of Israel. And I said, you asked me that follow-up. And I said, no. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks. That decision had been made. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability that they had, and we carried that out. I was very clear in that answer. This was a question of timing, of why this had to happen as a joint operation, not the question of the intent. Once the president made a decision that negotiations were not going to work, that they were playing us on the negotiations, and that this was a threat that was untenable, the decision was made to strike them. That's what I said yesterday, and you guys need to play it. And if you're going to play these statements, you need to play the whole statement, not clip it to reach a narrative that you want to do, all right?
So there's Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying very much what I said yesterday, fitting hand in glove with my analysis yesterday, that no, when Marco Rubio says that we knew Israel was going to attack, so then we had to get involved, it wasn't about Israel forcing our hand. We gave them the intel to make that initial strike. We were the ones who told them to strike de facto. And there you had Marco Rubio saying it was not a question about intent. It was a question about timing. That basically sums up everything that I was saying in a different way yesterday. Also, it's interesting, timing versus intent. If the United States had no intent whatsoever of striking Iran, we would have been moving assets and bases and people out of the Middle East. We wouldn't have been moving all of these forces into the Middle East as if we had no intention of striking Iran whatsoever. So this entire narrative is just farcical in and of itself. And we'll have more on that later. There might be a unusual suspect on the giving end of this, I think, propaganda that we're seeing over Israel roping us into another war. We'll talk about that more later. Speaking of that European country that is useless, that would be Spain. Their far-left government is trying to gum up our works. When it comes to striking Iran, they say we can't use their air bases to perform strikes. So President Trump says
some of the European, like Spain, has been terrible. In fact, I told Scott to cut off all dealings with Spain. Spain, first of all, it started when every European nation, at my request, paid 5%, which they should be doing. And everybody was enthusiastic about it, Germany, everybody. And Spain didn't do it. And now Spain actually said that we can't use their bases. And that's all right. We could use their base if we want. We could just fly in and use it. Nobody's going to tell us not to use it. But we don't have to. But they were unfriendly. And so I told him we don't want to. Spain has absolutely nothing that we need other than great people. They have great people, but they don't have great leadership. And as you know, they were the only country that in NATO would not agree to go up to 5%. I don't think they would have agreed to go up to anything. They wanted to keep it at 2%, and they don't pay the 2%. So we're going to cut off all trade with Spain. We don't want anything to do with Spain.
So basically an embargo on Spain is what President Trump says, not being friendly at all, not to mention helpful at all when we need our supposed ally. Also, there's this. The Strait of Hormuz has not been closed, as Iran said. As I said yesterday, you can't close a strait. It's not a canal. What has happened, though, is that Lloyd's of London, which is a giant shipping insurer, they do a bunch of different types of global insurance, but shipping is the one that they basically have a monopoly on worldwide. At least they are the gold standard. Monopoly is too strong a term, but they are the gold standard for making sure each container ship has insurance. Well, they are the ones who are declining to insure shipping around the Strait of Hormuz due to all of this warfare that's broken out there. Now, to give you a frame of reference, even on ports in and around Ukraine, they just jacked up the rates back when that war broke out. They're completely not insuring anything right now. So that prompted this from President Trump. Now, he doesn't name Lloyd's of London by name, but you can see the chess pieces moving here. He posted on Truth Social yesterday, quote, "Effective immediately, I've ordered the United States Development Finance Corporation to provide at a very reasonable price political risk insurance and guarantees for the financial security of all maritime trade, especially energy, traveling through the Gulf. This will be available to all shipping lines. If necessary, the United States Navy will begin escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz as soon as possible. No matter what, the United States will ensure the free flow of energy to the world. The United States' economic and military might is the greatest on earth. More actions to come. Thank you for your attention to this matter." Isn't that interesting? So Lloyd's of London, I saw some analysis yesterday as well. I'm not sure if this is necessarily accurate, but I thought it was interesting and kind of fits into what we're seeing here. You see, Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, on Saturday, his immediate reaction was basically what you're seeing from a lot of left-wingers in the United States. Khamenei, a bad dude, don't like him, he's a terrible person, but we didn't have anything to do with this. We didn't have anything to do with this action that the United States and Israel has taken up. We haven't done anything here. You know, Khamenei's a bad guy, but still, humph. I saw a post indicating that maybe Keir Starmer in the UK was very taken aback, caught off guard by how large this operation was. Now, the UK, part of the Five Eyes intelligence apparatus. So our intelligence agencies always talking to each other. I think that's Australia, UK, I think New Zealand, United States, a couple of others I can't remember off the top of my head. It is very possible that because we see the UK as an unreliable ally now, that they had no idea what was coming. I also saw it stipulated that there could be a direct pipeline between MI6, that's basically the UK's CIA, a direct pipeline between MI6 and Lloyd's of London. Because if you're an insurer, what is the number one commodity that you're trading in? Intelligence, basically. You have to know how to assess risk to set insurance rates. And so if you have something that all of these other insurance companies do not have, that would be access to the Five Eyes intel agencies, you're going to be able to price risk a lot better than any other insurance company. And so other insurance companies are basically going to price their rates against yours. If it is true that the UK was cut off in terms of intelligence from the United States, and maybe the rest of the Five Eyes as well, that would explain why they were caught off guard and why Lloyd's of London, instead of jacking up rates in and around the Gulf, they decided to stop insuring whatsoever. And now, the United States government, now we're playing insurance agent. Isn't that interesting? Another extraordinary, if it's real, if this account is real whatsoever, but something tells me that there's some grain of truth there, given that the United States, President Trump, made that announcement very, very rapidly that now the United States government will insure these ships in and around the Gulf, even using the U.S. Navy if necessary. We'll have some views from around the rest of the Middle East, as well as a Lindsey Graham heat check. It's coming up next. Like a guard who's hit 5 3-pointers in a row, Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, who has always wanted to bomb Iran, now wants us to bomb Lebanon.
And they support Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. One thing to President Trump, in case you're watching. In 1983, Ronald Reagan sent Marines and sailors to try to police and deal with the Lebanese civil war. They were at the end of the runway. Hezbollah attacked the Marine barracks, killed 220 Marines, 18 sailors, and wounded 100 others. Ronald Reagan, who I admire and love, withdrew and never did anything about it. So I'm calling on President Trump today. Join Israel to attack Hezbollah.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness,
America,
Lindsey.
never forget.
Calm down. Calm down. Down, boy. So he finally gets his wish to bomb Iran. And now, he's feeling it, man. Heat check. Hey, let's join in Lebanon. Let's go after Hezbollah. Boots on ground. Let's do that. I told you yesterday, curiously, one of Iran's neighbors who they have not attacked. Now, they haven't targeted like Turkmenistan or anything like that, but one neighbor that they have not attacked, who is a very big player in that area of the world, is Turkey. I thought that was interesting. Well, Turkey's foreign minister, Hakan Fidan, had this to say about the Iranian attacks. Quote, "They think if we sink, then everyone will sink with us." Fidan, Turkey's foreign minister, said Iran's strategy of attacking Gulf countries in response to Israeli and U.S. actions against it is, quote, "very wrong." In an interview with Turkey's state broadcaster, he described Iran's approach as, "If I sink, then I will sink the entire region with me." So Tayyip Erdogan, Turkey's president, came out with a statement that was fairly balanced. You know, we are with our brothers in Iran. It was pretty trying to keep an even keel. Now we've got Turkey's foreign minister calling Iran's actions in the aftermath, quote, "very wrong," further isolating Iran. Let's go to this. CBS has a fairly comprehensive poll asking respondents what they think of the U.S. military action against Iran. Overall, only 44% of respondents approve, 56% disapprove. Amongst GOP voters, it's plus 70. They support attacking Iran. Amongst Democrats, it's minus 80, not supportive. And amongst independents, it's minus 26. So that's the first poll. Of course, it's CBS, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. Also want to share this for you as well. One of the last things before a couple of items of other news, including a Texas-sized primary. Steve Witkoff, Middle East envoy, who has been the point person for the negotiations in recent days with Iran over their nuclear program, those unsuccessful negotiations. He said this on Fox News the other night about what went wrong.
90% material, Sean, can be brought to 90%. That's weapons grade, in roughly 1 week, maybe 10 days at the outside. The 20% can be brought to weapons grade inside of 3 to 4 weeks. And let me say this, because I forgot this small little detail. In that first meeting, both the Iranian negotiators said to us directly, with no shame, that they controlled 460 kilograms of 60%, and they're aware that that could make 11 nuclear bombs, and that was the beginning of their negotiating stance. So they were proud of it. They were proud that they had evaded all sorts of oversight protocols to get to a place where they could deliver 11 nuclear bombs.
Steve Witkoff, Middle East envoy. No wonder the negotiations broke down. They never really even started, if that account is true. Basically, the Iranians walked in and said, we've got enough material for 11 nukes, and we're proud of it. And we want to just unzip and throw that in your face. How do you like that for negotiations? Let's go to this. No, we're not going to talk about Tom Tillis, the outgoing senator from North Carolina, screaming at Kristi Noem. I guess
matters,
since I broached it,
quality. And what we
spent a couple of minutes
disaster.
in front of Kristi Noem, who was testifying in front of the Senate yesterday, just screaming at her.
What we've seen is innocent people getting detained that turn out are American citizens. I could talk about...
So that is supposedly a GOP senator who I've talked about him at length. Just a total... I mean, he's a Republican, which is worse than a rhino. Republicrats run as conservatives in places like North Carolina, which is a purple state now. They run as conservatives and then they govern and message as Democrats once they're elected. And make no mistake, Tom Tillis is not just a snake. He is an enemy of the Republic. He is. And in my estimation, I can't wait to see him go. He cannot leave that body soon enough. Also, it's a couple days old now. I got to get caught up. Hillary Clinton.
There are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying from inside this room. Can you please advise me as to whether or not that's permissible and consistent with the rules, particularly given that we have asked for a public hearing? If there are photos that are being released of the secretary as she is testifying, can you please explain how that can
I'm done
occur?
with this. If you guys are doing that, I am done. You can hold me in contempt from now until the cows come home. This is just typical behavior.
Apparently, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert took a picture of Hillary Clinton in these closed-doors meetings before I think they were under oath, which is why it's legally, gray area, and sent it to influencer Benny Johnson. Anyway, Hillary Clinton didn't like it.
It will go off the record.
Oh, for heaven's sake.
So I would like to understand how that's permissible.
Before the hearing was...
It doesn't matter. We all are abiding by the same rules.
I will take that down.
Yeah,
So
well.
I would like to take a break at this moment.
Yeah,
I'd like to have
I'm
a conversation.
done for now.
Okay. Saw another clip as well. I think it was Nancy Mace and Hillary Clinton just bickering back and forth endlessly. It's good entertainment. A lot of eyeballs on the various Texas primaries. Will start in the Senate, where James Tallarico will be avoiding, it looks like, a runoff with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Tallarico, as of this recording, with over 50% of the vote in the Texas Democrat Senate primary. In the Republican Senate primary, we're heading towards a runoff between incumbent Senator John Cornyn and outgoing Attorney General Ken Paxton. Neither of them meeting the 50% threshold. Of course, Ken Paxton, the outgoing Attorney General, which means that there is a job opening for Attorney General in Texas. Middleton, a state senator in the Lone Star State. He is going up against sitting Congressman Chip Roy. Looks like that race is heading towards a runoff as well as of this recording. Middleton polling a pretty surprising upset, holding off Chip Roy by about 12 percentage points, again, at the time of this recording. Notable House results in the primaries in Texas. Dan Crenshaw, Eyepatch McCain, he was defeated in his primary by Steve Toth. So, a Texas-sized primary. It looks like the turnout on the Democrat side was incredible. We'll see how Republicans do come runoff and the general election later this year. And now here's this. I want to read this post to you from Melissa Chen. She's, I think, an intelligence analyst, writer. If you wonder why, at the very first opportunity, some of the usual characters, and I'm not talking about Matt Walsh, I have enough respect for him that I'm not going to lump him in with this, but the usual characters of Jews or Israel and blah, blah, all of that discourse that we have talked about in passing a couple of times here and there. If you wonder why, at the very first opportunity, coming out of Operation Epic Fury, the very first opportunity they got to pull out the Israel roped us into this war card, why they were all over that like a fly on stink. Well, this Melissa Chen, Intel analyst, has an explanation. She writes, quote, seeing a plethora of low IQ Israel force the U.S. into war takes, she thanks you for helping to unwittingly launder CCP propaganda, by the way. The U.S. strikes come down to Iran and China, having engineered a mathematically unwinnable war of attrition for any purely defensive strategy. In other words, they can replace missiles faster than the U.S. can replace the interceptors needed to stop them. Secretary of State Marco Rubio stated this week that Iran is now producing over 100 ballistic missiles per month, while the U.S. can manufacture over only 6 to 7 relevant ballistic missile interceptors per month, the high-end systems actually capable of reliably knocking down Iran's advanced threats. Even the broader Patriot PAC-3 MSE line is only at 45 per month today, and the THAAD SM-3 production is even tighter at under 10 per month before emergency surges. Surely you can see how this is a giant problem. And what is China doing? China is deliberately supercharging this imbalance. Beijing has been caught shipping dual-use propellant ingredients, planetary mixers, and components that let Iran build its munitions factories at breakneck speeds. Reuters released a report in February revealing that Iran was days from sealing a deal with China for CM-302 supersonic anti-ship missiles capable of evading defenses, sinking U.S. carriers and destroyers from a distance of 290 kilometers, which turns the Strait of Hormuz into a lethal kill zone. If this doesn't strike you as a red line that should have galvanized any action now rather than later, then you are unable to handle the reality of the geopolitical survival. So why is China doing this? Because a cheap, endless Iranian missile barrage that forces the U.S. to expend $4 million interceptors against $20,000 Shaheds, that's the Iranian drones, or $200,000 ballistic missiles, is Beijing's perfect trap. Keep America's Navy, aircraft, and industrial base tied down in the Middle East, burning through stockpiles. Basically, keep America busy and out of the West Pacific. The imminent arrival of a Chinese-backed game changer would have rendered America's naval supremacy obsolete and provide an anti-access shield over the Gulf, Iranian nuclear sites, and every proxy from Hezbollah to the Houthis. This is why the Gulf states are also aligned with U.S. action. The U.S. needed to restore deterrence against a regime racing towards nukes and send an unmistakable message that the United States will never cede the Gulf to a Sino-Iranian nightmare. So, This is why you saw this entire fracas on Tuesday evening, actually it was Monday evening, just completely break containment. This notion that Israel roped us into another foreign war, another Middle Eastern war. This is Israel's war. This is why this hit overdrive. It's because this is all about China as well. Just as much as it's about the lunatics running Iran. This is about China's resources. Yes, that is true. This is about sending a message to China. We can decapitate you if we wanted to. Yes. But this is also about hegemony in the region, power in the region, direct power in the region. And so anything that China can do, anything that the CCP can do to get in the middle of this really strong allyship between the United States and Israel, the two most powerful air forces in the world, Any piece of propaganda they can insert to try to break that up, put pressure on Trump domestically, they're going to push that to the nth degree. And so the next time that there's any sort of ambiguity when it comes to words from the administration, when it comes to Israel, what role they're playing in this whatsoever, you can bet that this is going to blow up again. And I think it's worth at least considering that it's not all just natural. It's not all just organic. The CCP is definitely pushing some of these propagandistic exercises as well. That's going to do it for a Wednesday. Back at it again tomorrow. I'm Aaron McIntire, and this is the AM Update.